Not a lot of Corvettes sound like that. All right, well, as you can see by that clip, I was just out in the proving grounds in Detroit where they are building and testing the new hybridified Corvette E-Ray. It's a 2024 model year car coming out during this calendar year. And, well, it's right along the lines of what I've been talking about with the electrification of the sports car, which I talked about in that Ferrari 296 GTB video, but we've seen other hybrid sports cars. We got the NSX out. Sure, the hybrid 911 is coming. So what's fun about these electrifications is they all do it a little bit differently. Like all the engineering teams have a bit of a balancing act they have to consider about, how much do you lean into the electric part? How much battery do you add? How much do you electrify the powertrain? And so this Corvette here has done it in a way that I don't think anybody else is going to do it, but it still counts. So in the case of the E-Ray, they've added a small battery, a 1.9 kilowatt hour battery pack, right in between the driver and the passenger, driving a single 160 horsepower electric motor that powers the front two wheels. And that is completely separate from the 6.2 liter small block V8 powering the rear wheels. So in total, the electrification adds just over 100 kilograms to the car. It becomes the first ever all-wheel drive Corvette and the quickest Corvette ever, right in line with the Z06. So 2.5 seconds 0 to 60. And a 10.5 second quarter mile. But actually, when I'm looking at this car, I see it much more along the lines of the everyday supercar type thing. Like you can still get, obviously the C8 has been super successful for them, and the Z06, those will be the track cars. They will be a lighter weight car and they will be rear wheel drive. But my hot take is this is the best everyday drive. It's not even a hot take. This will be the best everyday driving Corvette ever made. And it's because of the electrification. So now from the outside, just looking at it, it might be kind of hard actually to tell if it passes you on the street that it is the E-Ray. Really the only giveaways would be the badging. So it says E-Ray down here on the side in this blue text, but there's also this ray on the back panel, which honestly looks pretty sick to me. Then there's also some interior details like the door sills, and there's an E-Ray badge on the steering wheel. And between the passengers, underneath this cool waterfall speaker design, it also says E-Ray. But aside from that, this Corvette is still the new mid-engine platform that so many people love. It is not a plug-in hybrid, to note, so there is no extra cap to plug it in for electric. It's just a gas cap in the normal spot, and it's in the wide body of the Z06, so it's got these big 275 wide front 20-inch tires and 345 wide 21-inch rear tires with the staggered setup. But guess what? The electric version can now start up silently and go 3 to 4 miles on pure electric up to about 45 miles per hour. So not really highway speed, just like getting out of the neighborhood. And it does make this interesting humming sound you heard earlier. Chevy calls it stealth mode. But yeah, it's a small battery, so it's a couple miles to just get out of your garage and not wake the people around you up when you first get in your car. So you can drive around this Corvette pretty quietly, which is already pretty unusual for a Corvette. But then it has to do this kind of a weird thing to kick the engine on, because as I mentioned earlier, the front axle is powered by the electric motor and the rear axle is powered by the V8. But that means they don't really talk to each other. There is no physical connection between those two powertrains. So the switch between stealth mode and then tour mode, which is like where the engine has turned on, is basically like this software trick they have to pull where as you're driving an electric, it sort of measures your speed, calibrates how it's going to turn the engine on and what RPM it needs to hit to match your speed. And it's this whole like flying start thing. It has to do all this calibration. Takes a couple seconds, maybe like 5 seconds as it shows this animation on the screen of what's happening, and then it kicks the engine in pretty seamlessly. It's actually a pretty complicated process, and I don't know, I think that's why I don't believe others will do it this exact same way when they do hybrids for sports cars, but hey, it seems to work. Asterisk, I haven't actually gotten to drive this car yet, I've only ridden along in it. But yeah, it seems to work really well because the ride-along I went for was a nice little track course made from cones. And man, you can really throw this car into corners, and the electric motor really helps a lot to sort of pull you out of the corner as you're accelerating and gives you that initial shove of acceleration. The well-known benefit by now of an electric powertrain is it can adjust traction control hundreds of times every second, right? So a gas car can only do this maybe once per second. So the addition of this electric motor on the front axis not only makes this the first ever hybrid Corvette, the first ever all-wheel drive Corvette, but it does give you some of those benefits of a much more responsive powertrain and makes it much quicker out of low speeds. So you get those benefits and improved traction control kind of, I mean, it's only on the front axle, so maybe only half as much as some others, but it's going to do its best, and it's going to be able to give you better traction in a variety of conditions like rain or even snow. So that's kind of why I'm saying this puts this in line as the ultimate everyday GT car. And Chevy knows this because not only does it have carbon ceramic brakes standard, but it has all-season tires standard, not summer tires. Those will be an option. And then, since you have two different types of power, you have some opportunities to do some cool stuff with the software. You know how some hybrids will show you like, oh, here's when you were using the engine, here's when you're using the electric motors and the battery, and here's when you're using both. Well, there's a hybrid, so it does that too. And it'll also show you a history, but it's not really that interesting of a history when the car hasn't really been driven really hard a little bit, you know? He's gonna go populate the data for me so I can check out what the screen looks like when there's a little bit of history. So here's what it looks like with a bit of history and some hard acceleration. So you can see very clearly when a lot of engine power is being used, and then also at the beginning when an electric drivetrain is helping out with torque fill and extra traction, things like that. And then when it goes down into the green, yeah, that's when it's regenerating and filling back up the battery. According to Chevy, it can regenerate as much power as it puts out, so it does a good job of trying to stay near its ideal roughly 80% battery percentage as much as it can. That is, unless you hit this new button, which is unique to the E-Ray, first time in a Corvette, which puts it in this sort of max regen mode to fill the battery to 100%. Maybe because you know you're gonna wanna sneak out and not wake up the neighbors the next morning with your 3 miles of stealth driving. So yeah, this is basically the best Corvette ever made as far as I can tell. The C8 was already killing it for them. This is literally just a quicker, more responsive, more versatile version that doesn't add too much weight and actually doesn't even lose out on storage. They built the C8 platform with space in the front, knowing that they'd be adding this electric motor later to the E-Ray. So the front trunk is still the same size as the C8, which is a decent amount, maybe enough for 2 stacked duffel bags, I'd say. And the rear trunk is, of course, the same size as well. So potentially a whole set of golf clubs or some travel bags for 2 people. It's pretty solid. This is really giving me everyday supercar vibes, just like the NSX did. You know, this isn't a review, but my only concern would probably just be that, okay, they've decided to go with such a small battery, 1.9 kilowatt hours, that this particular battery is going to be doing a lot of deep cycles. If you drive it hard, you can use a lot of that battery quickly, and then it regens and uses a lot again and regens. And as you know, a lot of battery cycles is how batteries age quickly. So we'll keep an eye on how these age over time. But other than that, it seems like they've done a pretty great job. I mean, the thing still sounds really, really good. So it seems like they've kept everything people already know and love about the Corvette. I mean, I'd take it over the Z06. Now, people will still take the gas car version, the lighter, more track-focused version with rear-wheel drive and all the fun that that brings. But if I'm gonna own this car and drive it every single day, well, I mean, I live in the Northeast, so this is gonna be the best possible Corvette that someone like me could get. And it's not a bad looking car either. So the E-Ray is gonna start at $105,000, which is expensive, of course. I actually have another video on a less expensive car coming out I'm sure you'll be interested in, but it sort of fits right into the Corvette lineup, and price per dollar is pretty good. It's pretty good. So that's the electrified sports car version from Chevy. That's been it. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one. Peace.